everyone, welcome to another exciting live episode of All New Comic Book Late Night. I'm your host, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is the amazing Eric Holden. He's Luke Cage!
Okay.
And it's the Curious Low!
Hello. I'm back after another week hiatus.
You guys are just buckets of excitement this evening.
I warned you.
Going on?
I warned you. I have no energy
I
this
can
week.
see the yeah, but then Eric too. Like, are you just doing her a favor? Is that what it is?
I had to get up early for work, and
You mean you have to get up tomorrow, or you had to get up this morning?
no, I had to get up this morning.
Oh, okay.
Thank God I don't have to get up early.
I can
tomorrow.
see the clouds like looming over your heads, and yeah, well, try not to get struck by lightning. Anyway, thanks a lot for being here live. If you're watching, we're gonna make this as exciting and as lively as possible. I've already been informed by the Curious Low that she's not all that excited about any of her books this week. So keeping the energy level up this week is gonna be perhaps a challenge, but we'll see. You know, it's just this is what I got to work with. We'll see. We'll do our level best. And I got Eeyore back here.
Hey, yours always been the Pooh Bear character I've related to the most.
Yeah, well, I can see why.
See,
Everyone
normally
fits
I
one
relate to Tigger the most, but this
Oh, me
week I
too.
might be on your side and be a little bit more in the Eeyore camp.
Yeah, it seems like every other day I'm picking your tail off the stairs. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the.
Sorry to be a bother.
We'll go ahead and jump into the trivia question here in just a second. As always, toward the end of the show, we're going to do an open forum. So be thinking about things you might like us to talk about besides the comics that we're talking about tonight in the comic and superhero realm. And here in a little bit, of course, we will be counting down our top 3 favorite comics each from this previous week. The trivia question for this evening, and you're going to be playing for a digital copy of Venom now. Venom number 1. Now Venom number 1 is what you can win. And this is a Venom-related question because the major books this week are not all DC things, so you're not having to answer a DC question for a Marvel book. The trivia question today is open-ended. The question is simply, the first person who can do it will get that digital code. Name 3 symbiotes, i.e. Clintars, as we call them now, besides Venom and Carnage. So Spider-Man symbiotes in Marvel that are from the symbiote planet, besides Venom and Carnage. So whoever can name 3 of those first will get that code. We will let everybody know the answer, or rather, whatever that person said, because there are a number of them. I won't go down the list of every single Clintar there's ever been.
Reginald, Macbeth.
It looks like we've already got one, so I will talk about that toward the end of the show. Let me just copy this and make sure that I've got his answer, and I will confirm this a little later because there's actually one there that I'm not even familiar with. There's so many of these things. All right, we're gonna go ahead now and talk about some announced books. Nothing huge that I'm super excited about. Manowar is apparently coming back.
Oh, cool. I might jump on that. I read the first hardcover.
Did you like it?
I liked it.
That ended. Of course you did. Eric reads. Eric dabbles in everything. That end. I was like, oh, here's the thing I don't care about. Valiant. Not a thing I've ever really looked into. I've sold some Valiant. My wife always likes to make fun of Manowar because we used to have 2 full boxes of nothing but Manowar.
Oh, I would have read that.
A lot of them were.
That's Bob
duplicates.
Layton.
And that is coming back in February. And I don't know if it's Robert Venditti again.
Issue 1.
So it probably is, yeah. But anyway, so the other things I wanted to mention are today, just today, several new Inhumans spin-off comics were announced. Yay! Because it's just all about the Inhumans right now, which is not surprising given the big event that starts next week.
And that they announced a TV show.
Yeah, and that maybe the movie is back on the table again. So suddenly we're Inhumans happy, and maybe even quite a bit more than we were in the first place at Marvel, but we've got Inhumans vs. X-Men starting next week, and I'm sure these will be the big books that come out of that event at the end. We always announce some books that come right post an event that kind of or jump off of whatever the events of that were. But anyway, the first one is called The Royals, which is supposed to follow the Royal Inhumans family, and they're traveling to space on a mission to discover the history of Terrigenesis.
That sounds like that should just be the Inhumans book, right?
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, well, and I don't know if Uncanny Inhumans ends. I don't know if like these are the Inhumans books, or if we're gonna have like 5 Inhumans books all at the same time, and if the Inhumans, if whatever X-Men books we get, because I don't know if any of those have been announced yet, whatever's happening post this event. Right. But which is in fact being called IVX. I was hoping they wouldn't do that. He kept calling it that.
It is older man Logan.
Indeed, elderly man Logan. But anyway, apparently one of the Inhumans is supposed to get killed off in that, so we'll see what happens there. Black Bolt is getting his own book, and that could potentially be cool. And then there's a book called Secret Warriors, which is a new team led by Quake, not super surprising, and starring Miss Marvel, Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur, Inferno, and Karnak. So a somewhat Inhumans team. And so we'll see.
Oh boy.
We'll see how those go. Yeah, that doesn't immediately appeal to me at all. But
this is not my Eeyore that's coming up. This is Inhumans.
But you did say, oh boy.
Oh boy.
So that was either going to be Eeyore or it was going to be the guy from Quantum Leap. I'm sorry, what, Lo?
I just said, oh boy.
You said, oh boy.
It's just depending on how you say it, you are you are a particular character in pop culture. There's a lot of oh boys. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that The Royals is Al Ewing with art by John Boy Myers. I don't know who that is.
I don't know.
Okay. There wasn't, in the article I read, there wasn't a credit for things he had worked on. And then Black Bolt is written by Saladin Ahmed, who is the novelist of something called Throne of the Crescent Moon, which I guess was nominated for a Hugo. And,
that sounds like something Lo would know.
Yeah. And art by Christian Ward, who drew on Ultimates, and nothing about who's drawing that Secret Warriors book. But anyway, those are the only announced things that I wanted to, or that I noticed this week anyway, to bring up. So let's go ahead and right now. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention, this is like month-old news that I didn't see before, so I want to mention it now. R.L. Stine dropped that he is writing his first comic series for Marvel.
Really?
Yeah.
What's he writing?
He wouldn't say anything else about it. He did like a Q&A on Twitter.
Oh, that better be Tomb Dracula.
In October. He did a, well,
Swamp Thing?
I think a Goosebumps comic book series could be cool. But and we don't know what it is yet. He said, I'm not allowed to say anything about it. And there was a lot of questioning of whether or not he was even supposed to say he was doing anything. But he did say Marvel. Like, I could have seen him just saying, I'm doing a comic. I can't say anything else about it. At 73 years old, he's writing his first comic book. And I think that is really cool. So we'll see what that ends up being like. And when it gets officially announced, it's been a month and a half since that news came out, and I just now found out about it today. So anyway, let's hopefully it's not just like for the Goosebumps movie, like they made another one. I don't know if there's been any talk about a sequel to that. But
I don't think there has been since that movie came out.
I still hope it gets one. I think there's 100 cool things you can do.
There's a TV spinoff too.
Yeah. There's a lot to be done with that. Anyway, so let's go ahead. We should do a commentary to Goosebumps. That was better than it had any right to be.
Oh, I agree.
Let's go ahead and now get into our top 3 for this week. Lo, why don't you start us off and tell us what your third favorite comic that you're so excited about?
Yeah. So as Kath already mentioned a little bit, I did not thoroughly enjoy practically any of my comics this week, so I will do my level best to not rip the first 2 that I talk about apart because I'm kind of frustrated with both of them. But my number 3 is Han Solo number 5.
I really like that cover.
I was sort of on board with this story at the beginning of the arc, and I'm pretty sure this was the last issue, I think. I didn't verify that, but I don't know what else there's to do with this story. And there was a lot of Deus Ex Machina that happened in this that just didn't make any sense. And I feel like I don't even know. I don't know. The art's really pretty. And dimensions happened. Yay, number 3. My top 3 was Han Solo. All right, you guys go.
I've been buying that. I haven't read past the first issue, and I think that was just a miniseries.
Yeah, I know it was just a miniseries. I don't think there's an issue 6. I mean, it seemed like they wrapped up the story this time. I just didn't verify, so I don't want people to be like, "Hello, what are you doing? There's an issue 6." I'm covering my butt.
Anyone who ever complains in the comments sounds like that's the
and they tap with one finger, just like this.
Yes, always, because that's what you do when you're angry. Even if you know how to type.
Is that why Arlen Ellison types like that?
Yes,
he's
that's why, because he's
angry?
just always angry. Yeah, exactly. Even if you know how to type, even if you have like even if you type at 90 words per minute, if you're mad, it's this.
Exactly.
Eric, what was your third favorite book for this week? And are you more excited than Lo was for hers?
I'm tentatively more excited.
Okay.
I have a strong first 2. My third one was kind of a toss-up between 2 books. I decided to go with Spider-Man: The Clone Conspiracy #2.
Yeah.
I'm kind of digging this book. I'll at least read this whole arc with a caveat. This is not a Spider-Man story. This is a Doctor Who story. I like Doctor Who.
I feel like you go to that a lot, though. I feel like you call everything Doctor Who stories.
Well, Dan Slott likes Doctor Who.
Well, that's
so
true.
when I say Dan Slott's doing Doctor Who for Silver Surfer, he said that.
No, that's true, but I didn't get that from this.
Oh, I got that from this.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to stop everything. I'm surprised you're saying that.
Especially with... This is my number 3, but I hated the last page because everything has to be a multi-dimensional, universe-ending event with Spider-Man.
Give that another couple issues before you... I mean, I think like that didn't bug me just because so much after Secret Wars is about like what we've done with the universes and how we've ruined the multiverse.
Yeah, I know. This just kind of felt like a Doctor Who plot to me. And I like Doctor Who, so I was kind of enjoying it on that level. It's fun. It's better than Slott's been for a while. Maybe Slott just needed 10 years to finally get into his groove. But yeah, I liked it. It was all right.
I didn't put that on my list, but I was surprised by how much I liked it too. I was really expecting to just not care.
Yeah.
The art helps a lot. It's so good.
Really like
glowing reviews for our number 3s. I was upset, and his was it was all right. You gotta save us, Cap.
It's Jim Chung, who
I'll do my best.
Who I know from Young Avengers. He did a little bit of Avengers with Bendis. I like him quite a bit. So yeah, the art's really good. There's a double-page spread that I was like, oh, that's really neat.
I want to ask you a couple things about that, not to elongate this, because it seems like you really want to move on as fast as humanly possible.
Well, you said brevity, and I was like, okay, well, I don't actually have anything to say about this.
When did I say brevity? No, I want to know if you like or think it makes sense that that's not just an arc in the main Spider-Man title.
I'm not reading the main Spider-Man title, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But a prop I will give it, I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Me neither. Well, and actually, I kind of found myself making fun of other slots, Spider-Man that I've read because of that. Because it calls back to a thing that happened years ago that apparently we're still dealing with, which is this whole thing when Peter Parker was like, nobody dies, and that comes back because the premise of this is everybody that Peter Parker is remotely responsible for getting killed, at least if they wear a costume, and I guess some people even that don't.
Some of them come back. He had nothing to do with their death. I'm gonna minor spoilers.
Yeah.
Stiltman comes back. 1, he's not a Spider-Man villain. 2, he died because Punisher blew him up with a bazooka and beat him to death with his legs. Like that has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah, maybe really indirectly somehow. I didn't read that, so I don't know what Spider-Man's place was in that story if he had one. But I didn't notice Stiltman. That's crazy. And I should have looked harder at the big full.
There was a couple I didn't know. I was happy with that.
So the premise is is it the Jackal? Miles Warren
with a much better redesign
brings back everybody and is trying to and claims that his reason is so that Peter Parker doesn't have to feel guilty anymore and have to feel responsible. So like, I've taken all the blood off your hands is the idea, and he says it's what you always wanted. No one dies, and I'm like, Slut, you said that was the name of an arc like 3 years ago. I felt like I missed nothing in a hilarious way. I was like, I can just jump right back into it, nothing. But as you say, you got to give it props because anybody can pick that up, and because it's being touted up as an event, it's okay that it's not in the main book.
I'd imagine if you're reading the Spider-Man book, it's the thing that Slott always does, because...
Well, and I'm kind of wondering what he's doing in there with this being clearly the main thrust of the story.
Well, the thing Slott always does when he has better things to do than write the book he says he is his dream to write is he just brings in a co-writer. I imagine if you go over to Amazing right now, it's being co-written.
Well, and if so, it might be better than it has been in a long time. And that tends to happen sometimes too, where somebody else will come in and I'm like, oh, this is what this book should read like. But that's not fair because I feel like Peter Parker is consistently written in a way in this that I haven't seen him in a long time from Slott. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know how I feel about that gimmick moving forward, and obviously, bringing back Gwen Stacy is not a thing anybody wanted to see, like real Gwen Stacy, and yet I found myself interested in it regardless. And there is a reverence for the way she died and stuff, and the idea of bringing back people have all their memories intact in a sort of cloning kind of way. We had a discussion about whether or not it really was cloning, is kind of interesting, except that's just resurrecting them. At the end of the day, anyway. All right. Well, my number 3 is just, that was a book I wanted to talk about too, even though I didn't put it on my list. So I had to say a few things. My number 3 this week is, I'm surprised, and this was an 11th hour read. I bought this today. Actually, my son Jason bought this, and because we missed it last week, and we were at a different store today. This is Scooby-Doo Team Up number 20, teaming up with Space Ghost. And I love Space Ghost, and this did not disappoint at all. First of all, I always really like the art in this book. It does a really good job of blending to the styles of whatever the two things are that week. Much of the time, it's just DC characters. They do a lot of crossover with Batman, but every now and again, they'll do some other Hanna-Barbera thing, and DC is Hanna-Barbera happy right now, and this was the right time to do this for a couple of reasons. First of all, because we have the Future Quest book, Space Ghost is in that, but also because sadly, C. Martin Coker just died, and he's the guy who voiced Zorak, and there's a dedication to him, and also Don Messick on the second or third page, and that's probably why this came out when it did. I was really glad to see that dedication there. I thought it was kind of weird that it's on a page as opposed to being like in the interior at the beginning.
Yeah, that was, or at the end.
Yeah, that could have been cool.
This book is in
for this person. Yeah. But I really liked how like all the self-parody in this, how everybody in this takes everything seriously, and yet it's poking fun of both of these properties everywhere in a really reverential kind of way. Space Ghost has like an explanation for why he says Space Ghost when he flies off in his in a ship, which is great. And there's this running gag where on Earth, Space Ghost does not understand why we don't have spaceships everywhere. And he just assumes that they're like in the shop, or and it's great, and that's just this ongoing gag that's constant, that goes through the whole book. Zorak and Moltar are both in this. I would have loved to have seen Brack, but you can't win them all. But we get some of Zorak's extended family and all of that, which is fun. And we make fun of the fact that the kids are always being kidnapped. And then Zorak has a line about how the kids that run around with Space Ghost are his favorite people to kidnap, because it happens all the time. And then toward the end, not to give too much away, but there is a reference to Space Ghost Coast to Coast that had me just busting a gut. Anyway, and this was kind of fun and exciting to read because Eric and I have been on a coast-to-coast binge lately, so I was really in the mood for that. Anyway, Lo, what is your number 2?
My number 2, which I do not feel nearly as strongly about as I did Han Solo, so don't worry, my ripping into comics is over with, is All New Wolverine number 14. This kind of deals with the aftermath of what happened in the previous issue, where she was kind of dosed to go a little berserk and kill a bunch of people. It starts with S.H.I.E.L.D. finding her and trying to take her in, and her ultimately escaping and deciding that she needs to go try and find these people who who did this to her on her own, teaming up with Gabby, of course. And they hitch a ride aboard a pirate ship, which Gabby finds hilarious, and so do I, mostly because Gabby is quippy and funny, and I like characters like that. I always really like this book, but it always seems to come out on weeks that I have other things that I like even more. So it tends not to make it in my top 3, but in fact, I think this is the first time it's been in my top 3. So if you aren't reading this and you like sort of the same type of comics that I do, kind of a classic-ish character. I mean, obviously it's a new person taking up the mantle of Wolverine, with some of that sort of like Spider-Gwen, Squirrel Girl, like quippy quirkiness. That's my favorite word. You guys all know, so it's fun. You should check it out.
I did not know that about that book. I did not know that the X-23 Wolverine book was a quirky book.
It's not. I mean, it's not nearly as much as Squirrel Girl is. I mean, Squirrel Girl is
but
like
she's been played real dark in places.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
Gabby, who's one of her clones, but is basically her younger sister, is a little bit more kind of like spastic. And I think partly just because she's like a teenager / preteen. That's just sort of how they are at times. So I don't know. It's nowhere near as quirky and ridiculous as some of the books that I read, but it has like a happy medium of like classic superhero type stuff with the quirkiness mixed together in a happy marriage.
I read Enemy of the State 1, and it wasn't anything like that.
You read what now?
I said I read Enemy of the State 1, and it wasn't anything like that.
I keep meaning
there were no pirate ships.
I keep meaning to try that book, and I'm like I keep forgetting about it. And Lo, you're right. That's never made your list before. The first time you mentioned that you were reading it, I was like, I didn't know you were reading that book.
Yeah, I mean, it's because like I tend to like the same books every single week. So, but this week there was even Spider-Gwen this week, you guys, and it did not make my top 3. That's got to tell you something.
Yeah, I wasn't in love with it either.
We can talk about that later if you want, but
it's a pointless Thanksgiving interlude, and they just had an interlude like that.
I know that this happens in comics sometimes, but just the like mid-comic art shift like really threw me, and I did not like the art style for the second half. So I was just like powering through it. Like it like, this sounds so over dramatic, but it was like uncomfortable to look at. I didn't like the art style at all. So, and that's something that really makes or breaks comics for me. So that happening in a book that I normally really like, I was like, ugh, why?
Is this going to be a thing now, Lo, with Spider-Gwen? Like it's not a pattern yet, but are we going to have to do? Because, I mean, these only come out monthly. Do we have to do a holiday issue for every holiday? Because we did a Halloween one. Yeah. And then we immediately did a Thanksgiving one. Like, are we going to do a Christmas one, too? Is there going to be a St. Patrick's Day issue of Spider-Gwen?
I'm pretty sure. Where was the title? Yeah, next is called 'Tis the Season.
Of course it is. Okay, all right. Well, look, you can do that and it not be interlude. You can have it be a holiday
like
issue.
Just taking place at Christmas time, but yeah.
Boy, those last couple issues are wholly skippable. I mean, I like the Halloween one with Mysterio, but it's still skippable.
Yeah. I mean, this had some stuff with Aunt May in it, but meh.
Yeah, and that stuff was but that was like 3 pages. And
it seemed like it really wasn't going to have any effect on the overarching plot, because it was just sort of like, we're cool, right? Okay, we're cool, but we also can't hang out ever, so this is not going to matter. Okay, bye. Like, I don't know.
Wow,
anyway, that was not my number 2, but now we've talked about it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. How many Eric CW show episodes of just any CW show you've seen did she just give a plot synopsis to? Quite a few. Eric, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is DC Universe Rebirth Teen Titans, number 2. It's really good. Done. No, so Damian has...
I could have done that. Just leave me notes next time. Just leave me a... It was great!
Damian has kidnapped a couple of other teenage heroes. Boy, do I not understand the timeline of Rebirth and New 52 with some of these characters.
I don't think the writers do either.
And you're gonna have to explain something to me with Damian because I've missed some stuff with Damian, so I don't know what's been going on with him and
Talia. Don't ask me about the bear thing because I don't know about the bear thing.
Okay, but like we are so far and away from where we left all of that stuff at the end of Batman Incorporated that I'm like, when did they start talking to each other again?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's
wrong.
I
assume it's been done in other books.
I was jarred by that because I didn't realize we had even done anything with League of Assassins and him since he was resurrected. But I guess I should expect that. Anyway, sorry.
So Damian kidnaps Raven, who's a teenager, which doesn't make sense. Starfire, Beast Boy, who's a teenager, and it doesn't make sense. And then fake Wally West.
Wait, why can't Beast Boy be a teenager?
Because he was on the team with Dick and Starfire and Raven.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for the same reason that doesn't make sense with Raven. Dick Grayson's like 36.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Beast Boy's just never aged, maybe because of his beast powers.
But yeah,
but he hasn't emotionally aged either. So.
And then fake Wally West, which is really a downer in the book, because I didn't know fake Wally West was in that book. He's a fine character, but he's not Wally West. And Wally West is like 36 too.
Your words say he's a fine character, but your tone says he is not a fine character.
He's not Wally West. Wally West is a married man with children.
I thought she was going to say your words say you hate this book, and I don't understand why it's number 2.
No. So Damian kidnaps these characters and says, "We're going to be the new Teen Titans. Also, I need friends." And then we find out that he didn't just kidnap them because he needs friends, which is kind of what it seems like for the first 2 issues. He kidnapped them because, for some reason, the League of Assassins has a group of teenage assassins that Damian was the leader of, and they all picked a target, and it's these 5
And of course
people.
They're teenagers, right?
Well, if that was who Damian was supposed to lead, they're supposed to be the next generation of League of Assassins. That makes sense to me.
I get, yeah.
And they're kind of cool. I mean, they don't get a lot of characterization, but, like, they're kind of cool.
And they're all pretty easy allegories to the Teen Titans, I think, but...
Not as easy as you would think. I like that the Starfire one was just a rock guy.
Okay, but it's hilarious that they get to like pick their own because the ones you picked are what someone would have picked for you as being the matchups that seem to be the fairest matchups.
Yeah, and I'm sure at the end of this arc,
I wanted to see 2 of them be like
switch partners.
I wanted 2 of them to be. I want Raven. No, I want Raven.
But so we find out that they're hunting down these people, and so Damian captured everyone, hoping to get them away from the assassins. But the assassins are, 3 steps ahead of them, and they all attack. And it's a lot of fun. I really like what we're doing with Damian. We're like, he kind of realizes that he's a jerk. He's becoming more self-aware as he's getting older, and he's trying to correct it and get on the right path. I really enjoy it. I think it's a fun teen book, but I also, as a fan of Damian and somebody who didn't think he should come back from the dead and nobody but Grant Morrison should write him, I'm kind of enjoying Damian.
And he's definitely got that, like, Lex Luthor, there are 2 paths I could go down.
And there's a lot of stuff about how he wants to be Batman. There's a point where someone says...
I like that. And he calls himself Batman.
Yeah. Somebody asks him, like, how did you do this? And he goes, I'm Batman. And then they're like, what? He goes, I said I'm the son of Batman. Like, that's not what you said, man.
It's like that. It's like that moment in Batman Forever. I killed them. He killed those boy spirits. No, you said I killed them. It's that whole thing.
I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's written by Benjamin Percy, who's also writing Green Arrow. And I think the art's a fun, kind of kinetic art style for a teen book. I really like it.
It does. We didn't read the. Well, I didn't read the number 1. Maybe you did.
I did. I read the Rebirth in the number 1.
It does. Having not read those, it does not read like a number 2.
Which is why I handed it to you.
Yeah. But I mean, for anybody that's interested, based on what Eric just said about it, it reads almost like a number 1. Like like you can just rush out and get that by itself.
The stuff in the 0 issue in issue 1 are really all character stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then this is kind of where the plot kicked in. All we knew was Damian kidnapped people, and then the last page of issue 1 is Ra's al Ghul. And we're like, okay, something's going on with Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, okay. I'm sure all the stuff about the insecurities of each of the characters is building on stuff they did in the first issue.
Yeah.
But beyond
that's how
that,
he gets all of them.
But a lot of that stuff I could have inferred that is inherent to those characters in the first place. Yeah.
I really liked it.
So I'm going to go on now to a book that that is actually a number one that I do not think is all that readable if you haven't read what came before. But my number two this week is Now Ultimates 2, number one. Because I'm just going to say now in front of everything.
Now
yes, Now the Ultimates, number one.
Now A Ultimates.
Now A Ultimates 2. Now, okay, so Eric and I have been kind of making fun of the decision to call this Ultimates 2, given that it's coming right off of the first book. Like, I don't even think they missed a month. Maybe they missed one. I don't think they missed a month. And because it's weird that like this is just the next extension of that. Like, we renumber a lot, but to give it a technically different title and have it be a sequel thing. But I sat down over the weekend and binged all of Ultimates up to this. We were making fun of it without even really knowing enough about the book to be poking fun at it. And it's all blending together for me now, because in one sitting, or over a day, I read 13 issues of this. This really is just the next chapter of this, and the Ultimates 2 title makes sense to a degree because the team is different. The members are the same, but the way they operate is different. So what the Ultimates was, this version of the Ultimates in the first place was a cosmic, or a group of people with some with cosmic powers, some with cosmic level intellect, all put together in order to solve problems, like big cosmic problems, before they happen, and peacefully. And one of the things that made it really interesting is that it's not your traditional go out and beat up the bad guys kind of team. They solve every problem with their minds. And so a lot of the cool stuff in the visual storytelling is more about the big cosmic space stuff, but it is a really talky book. There's hardly any kicking and punching in this book. And I thought it was really interesting that in this issue, Black Panther says that the reason he shut the thing down, he basically at the end of the first run forces the Ultimates to quit, and the government agrees with him, and they won't let them continue for various reasons. A lot of it having to do with Civil War II and with what's going on with Spider-Man, and Ulysses thinking that Spider-Man's going to kill Captain America in the future. Happily, I did not open this and see that 2-page spread again. Did happen with Civil War II again, but did not happen with it. I think I've counted 5 or 6 now. Anyway, but
it's really important.
But I love that Black Panther says that at the moment that this team becomes a traditional superhero team, it cannot exist. That was the whole point of it. That was the thing I really liked about it, and then it articulates that in his dialogue. This is kind of the main reason I'm putting it on my list.
Black Panther is in 2 books that are not about punching?
Yes.
But eventually the punching will come?
Well, we saw a little bit of punching in one of the issues of Ta-Nehisi Coates' book. And I kind of wish I stayed on that book now, because he mentions in this that, like, he's having trouble at home and there's stuff going on in Wakanda, and I'm like, oh, I was reading that book. I would know what you were talking about.
But I was waiting for the punching.
I was waiting for the punching. No, I was just waiting to care more than I did. But anyway, so the idea is this team is just too powerful to be that kind of team. And the idea, one of the big ideas was they don't have a leader, and they all run the team together, and that became dysfunctional and kind of fell apart. So at the end of this, in building this new team that's now going to operate covertly because they're not supposed to be around, and are coming together partly because of Galactus, which is great. We find out who the new leader is, and it is, I won't say who, but it is one of the 5. It's one of the members that we had in the first place. I like that we're not. It's not Galactus. Well, Galactus is not one of the 5. He's not technically a member of the team.
Okay.
Galactus, in the first couple of issues, gets turned from the Devourer of Worlds to the Life-Bringer. And what he is basically doing now is going around looking for new heralds to create life, which is awesome. And he's basically bringing the Ultimates back together to try to make them into heralds. And anyway, I like this a lot. It is really character-driven. It's really talky. It is not your conventional comic book, and it is cosmic without the quirkiness, and is very much about all of the politics and the ethics of the idea of trying to solve these big cosmic problems, and especially trying to solve them before they happen. I like it. I like Civil War II now a lot more. and I still don't love it, but I like it a lot more reading Ultimates, and there should be a disclaimer in Civil War II that says you need the Ultimates. That book does not work without the Ultimates. Because I get where Carol comes from a lot more reading that book. Well, let's find out what your number one is.
My number one this week was Spider-Woman, Wonder Woman, some woman, you know.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Spider-Girl.
Wonder Woman 11, which was the conclusion of the Lies plot arc, which I've been continuing to talk about basically nonstop every other issue because I love it so much. And I loved the ending. I thought it was great. I love where they brought everything. And I don't want to spoil things because it's very cliffhangery. I mean, like, you could probably have guessed that this is where it's going. But if you're somebody like me who, I actively try not to guess endings. Like, I don't know, like when I'm in a movie, like I really try hard not to think about where things are going because I like being surprised. Same with comics. Like I like getting to the cliffhanger and being like, what? So the ending, the last couple panels of this really caught me off guard. Really liked it. I'm very interested to see what's going on with all of that and how those ramifications will ripple outwards because obviously this means a lot for her backstory and like what she's been up to for the last, gosh, however many years that this has been affecting her. So super interesting. I really liked it. I really, really like this arc. So yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to go back and get those. That's a book I dropped because I lost interest a little bit. Yeah, and like I really like Rucka, but I've got too many things on my pull list, and I lost interest a little bit. The jumping back and forth thing, I loved conceptually, but weirdly I found myself more interested in well, I guess not weirdly. I found myself more interested in that stuff and less in the other, and it wasn't happening often enough. I kind of wish the Lies had been a twice a month thing because I've been spoiled by the double shipping on titles I like. That's part of it, but
fair enough.
I'll go back retroactively.
You can always just go get those issues and not the other plot.
I may do that.
He can't do that.
Yeah, okay. I do have. Yeah, I do. I say I may. I won't do that. Eric, what is your number one?
I believe we have the same number.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about it then. It's Now Venom. Number one. Now here comes Eric's enthusiasm. This is written by Mike Costa with who did the art in this? Gerardo Sandoval. Is that an artist you're familiar with?
I'm not familiar with him. I like him quite a bit.
I did not like the art when I was just looking at the previews, and then with this script, it all comes together. I think it's exactly what it should look like.
Yeah, no, I agree. It looks great.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
All right, so I was mostly interested in this book because of Mike Costa, who wrote G.I. Joe Cobra, which is some of the best comics that came out in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years. And this is, I believe, his first big book at Marvel. He tried at DC, but Blackhawks was not the place for him to go.
Oh, no. Was it just bad, or?
I didn't read it. Who cares about the Blackhawks?
The Blackhawks are a thing that should show up in and out of books, but yeah.
So this takes the entire idea of Venom, everything that's been done with him the past 5 years since Flash Thompson. How long has that been?
Yeah, about 5 years. Although I'd say it's doing stuff with the mythology going all the way back.
Well, what I was going to say is it takes everything starting with Flash Thompson and all the stuff that Bendis did in Guardians, and it's taking all of that and it's flipping it all in its head. This is a different Venom book than you've ever read before, and it's great.
And yet takes it
hard. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Because it's a horror book again. It's a villain book again.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want... this book's hard to talk about without spoiling the twist.
True, yeah.
But it's...
The best thing about it is how much of it is narrated from the symbiote's perspective.
Almost the entire thing.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, his new host narrates part of it, and you kind of figure out what his new host is doing. This felt a lot like Costa in his element. It reminded me of G.I. Joe Cobra quite a bit. Costa likes writing bad guys. He's really good at it. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say because everything I want to say is a spoiler. And it's really hard to talk about this book you couldn't even pitch me on it without talking about the twist of the book.
Yeah, I guess so. I was it ended up being, and I don't know if it will be this moving forward, it ended up being exactly what I wanted if we weren't doing more Flash Thompson. I was real skeptical of this. Flash Thompson is the definitive version of this character if he's going to be a superhero for me. And if he's going to be a villain, well, we tried that 150 times in the 90s with miniseries. It never worked. The key was the key was make it about the symbiote. We were missing.
Well, and when you were looking at the art pages, you were like, I'm only okay with this if it's just the symbiote without a host. And it was.
And it was. Yeah, and of course he takes a host at the end. And my hope is that he comes off and on host throughout the book, because I don't know if it's the editor or the writer, but there's a letter at the end, I don't know if you read it, that says something about, like, wait till you see what we do with the host. And I'm like, okay, is it going to be an arc? Is it going to be the whole series? Are we going to deal with this guy? Is he the next Brock or Gargan or Thompson? Or
I think that could work if he was, but it would also be potentially jump from host to host.
Venom as a character himself, the symbiote, has become pretty complex since he got with Flash Thompson and decided that he liked being a hero and wanted to help people, and that it's not an excuse to kill people, because it's what Lethal Protector always was. That whole moniker, not just the book, but the moniker, and it always felt like a cop out to me, where it was like, oh, you don't really want to protect anybody. Like he
says in this, I want to save the world.
Yeah. Gets with a military guy because his last host was a military guy.
And a deformed military guy. He's missing 2 fingers.
I didn't even pick up on that. That's great. Yeah. But boy, this is exactly the next place to go if we're not gonna have him with Flash. And there's also a promise in that letter for big things for Flash Thompson. So he shows up in this and very possibly gets bonded again. I don't know, but we'll see where it goes. But I'm expecting to see who's who of that of the history of Venom, and because there's a potentially rich mythology there that's never really been capitalized on, because it's kind of just we start over every time. And to have a book that ropes all that together and says, here's the Venom. Yes, man, as I agree with you, Lethal Protector was garbage, but it was the most fun thing to make fun of when Dan and I reviewed it. But the idea of taking it outside of Spider-Man and going, Venom has its own mythology. Is a really great thing.
I would play with that a little bit with the Remender stuff.
Sure,
especially near the end.
But that was more of a and I mean like some with the symbiote, but less about the history of specifically Venom and more Flash Thompson's history.
Well, no, because the last arc of Remender's hunting down all of the symbiote hosts.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
No, you're right. There is some of that there. Yeah. Forget what I said. I haven't read that.
But this is kind of setting up the idea of, I mean, and Carnage is doing this too. I read Carnage last week. I don't know why. I need a book to read. I have stack.
Even I didn't read that. I purchased it.
Carnage is also kind of doing this, but like, I mean, nobody wants these thousands of symbiotes that we got running around. But if they're there anyways, why not do something with them?
Yeah.
But there's potential there that it could go to those places. And you've said that. I think the letter in the back says that they're kind of going to bring all that in. And Venom already has a whole supporting cast and universe to play with.
Yeah, I think this is going to create Venom fans. I think people are going to care about this character suddenly.
I mean, and that happened when Flash Thompson took over.
Yeah.
It could happen again.
But as a superhero, like we have, Marvel lately has been nailing the villain-led books.
Yeah.
Magneto was fabulous. I'm really liking, so far, besides how slow the last issue was, Dr. Doom as Iron Man.
Superior Iron Man was really good for the first 6 issues.
Yeah, and people, and again, to Slot's credit, people liked Doc Ock as Spider-Man, and that's of course a villain book, but also a superhero book. But I mean, like they have figured this out. They figured out how to make an antagonist the protagonist of a book without taking their teeth away or without making them unsympathetic. I mean, like there's a lot of really good kind of serial killer type books and stuff.
Yeah. So
we couldn't do it in the 90s, but we finally figured it out.
I'm really interested in seeing where this goes. It was my favorite book this week.
Yeah.
Hands down, it was my favorite book this week,
and it's getting a lot of acclaim. I'm like I got a few messages from people this week that were like, "Oh, I hope you bought Venom." And
my friend who Carnage, I messaged him. I was like, "Oh man, have you read Venom this week?" He's like, "No," and he messaged me today. He was like, "Venom was amazing."
Orpheus just wrote, "Magneto is fabulous." Captain Logan 2016. Magneto is fabulous. What? There was something else I was going to read. Oh, God, what was it I was going to say? Oh, somebody asked Ian McKee if this is what it was. If Eddie Brock was still running around as Anti-Venom. No, he hasn't been Anti-Venom in a while. Anti-Venom was cured during Spider Island, if memory serves. Yeah, and he took on...
I think he's over in the Carnage book.
He's in the Carnage book, and he's with that group of hunters that's kind of...
the Anti-Carnage Task Force.
Yeah. That's another horror book that now it's kind of like a woodsy horror thing. It started off as...
It's a Cthulhu book. Like, it's a Lovecraft. That last issue ends with him sacrificing to raise...
Yeah. It didn't feel like it at the beginning. It was more of like a claustrophobic, like put everybody in a sardine can and see what happens kind of thing. It was more of an alien kind of thing.
Right.
But then all of a sudden there was a prophecy and a Darkhold book, and all bets are off after that. But he got a...
Oh, and that Jubilee is not Jubilee.
It's not Jubilee. Okay.
Which makes me less interested.
He got a... I was going to ask you about that because now that I'm thinking about it, it's not Jubilee. It's a name that looks a little bit like Jubilee, but it's not Jubilee. Yeah. Anyway, but it's got I think it's like Jubul or something. But it's what I was gonna say is Eddie Brock has a different symbiote than that.
Yeah, a red one, right?
Yeah,
he's got the red and black one, whatever that is.
I can't remember anymore. That's not Toxin.
That's Guy.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So that is
Guy, the symbiote.
It's all of our registered trademark. That's all of our top 3 books for this week. So now we're going to go on to best cover. And Lo, what was your favorite cover for this week?
My favorite cover, despite the fact that I hated pretty much everything that was inside of this book, was Spider-Gwen. I loved it. I was really excited for this issue. And I was really excited to have Murdoch representing Gwen or like Gwen's dad, and like that seemed really interesting. They just did nothing with it and decided to do this whole Thanksgiving thing with Spider-Woman, and I was like, ugh. Who cares about any of this? But the cover was really cool and has cool like explosions in the picture.
I'm not thankful for Spider-Gwen.
I love Kingpin Murdoch. It's such a good idea.
Yeah,
and he's terrifying.
So I was like so excited to see what they were doing with that, and then just nothing happened. So, I mean, I'm sure we will get there, but as of now, it's kind of a letdown.
My favorite cover for this week is Ninja Turtles number 64, which I would have loved to put in my top 3, but I really wanted to talk about Ultimates and Space Ghost. Space Ghost! This is ethically ambiguous Splinter being all lonely and depressed because he's run off his sons because he's a scary murderer now, really, and he's looking out the window in his sadness. This is taking quite a turn with this issue, and oh boy, I can't wait to see where that thing goes. I think we're likely to have a couple of just kind of fun turtles running around everywhere arcs before we bring the Foot Clan back in. But now anyway, I'm giving away too much about that book, but everyone should be reading that. Eric, what is your favorite cover for this week?
My favorite cover for this week is Kingsway West number 3. It's a book that's still in a world building phase. It is a fantasy western that kind of diverges from history at a certain point when we discover a magical material called red gold. I'm waiting for the character stuff to really kick in and for me to really be grabbed by this book, but the world's really interesting. I'm going to keep with it for at least a couple more issues to see if I still like it, but the cover's great.
Okay, and now we go on to my suddenly new favorite segment because of how totally lethargic and irritated Lo is about her comic books this week. Lo, what is your worst book for this week?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think Spider-Gwen, and I think most of it is just because I love it so much and so consistently to have an issue like just utterly disappoint me like this one did. And I think part of it was just because I was so hyped on the cliffhanger from the previous issue that and then they just did nothing with it, that I was just sort of, I don't know. That one. Hopefully, I mean, it hasn't like maybe dropped the book or anything. It's like still my favorite book, but this issue
would be an issue.
Yeah,
was
well,
no fun.
It's an interlude. Like, they haven't ruined anything. Like,
yeah,
the stuff
just
Flo,
like
the stuff Flo's talking about with Murdoch, it's not that they bypassed over it. It's just they haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
And they get us all excited about it for 3 or 4 pages. Like, oh, we're gonna keep going. Nope, now it's Turkey Day nonsense. Who cares?
Yeah. It just like and the art shift again. I've told you guys all this before. It's like art is something that really affects me when I'm reading a book. It can be an amazing book, but if it's not an art style that I like I just can't get into it. And that art style at the end was no bueno.
Mr. Mask wants to know if I still read Spawn, if it would make my worst comic every week. Well, no, because it's only a monthly book. Eric?
So
what is your worst book for this week?
So as kind of coming onto the show and building comics I'm reading weekly, I've kind of been grabbing stuff and trying stuff here and there. So for no particular reason, I picked up Tomb Raider issue 10. I like Indiana Jones. I kind of like Lara Croft. I like tomb raiding and adventuring. Why not get Tomb Raider number 10?
Yeah, because it's not Gail Simone anymore.
People didn't even like that.
Right? Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. I didn't try it.
I didn't either. I meant to, but then everyone didn't like it, so I didn't.
It's really good.
This book feels like, if you know your Tomb Raider history, and for some reason, because I know something about everything I do, Tomb Raider used to be a Top Cow book. This reads exactly like what I would think one of those issues would read like, but without the gratuitous TNA and violence. There's no
without that, it's really pointless, right?
There's
at least she had something to grab onto.
There's no fun. She's just kind of walking around talking to people, and like somebody's possessed, and I don't know. It was really boring. Okay, I randomly picked it up. It's not like I couldn't figure out what was going on. I wasn't confused. I just didn't care. I really wanted to pick this up and it be like the Indiana Jones comic book I wish was being printed. Like, I really wanted it to be this really fun adventure book, and it's not. I know the new games have gone slightly more grounded with Lara Croft, and that's kind of a detriment to this comic because it's not grounded or serious enough to be like a dramatic book, but it's not fun or over the top enough to make me enjoy the like demon possession and stuff. So yeah, I tried it. It's not the worst thing ever, but I didn't care for it. I'm not going to read issue 11.
So this is, now that this has ended, this is better than it was at the beginning.
It's still the worst this
and
week.
It's still my worst book of the week. Death of X number 4. I didn't care for that. Everything makes more sense at the end. I thought everybody was really out of character on the X-Men side, and that the whole situation with the Inhumans and the X-Men kind of going to war over, and the war itself hasn't even started, going to war over the Terrigen Mist turning or killing X-Men was really, really manufactured and fabricated. Now that I know what was really going on that side, I still feel like the whole situation is really manufactured and really fabricated. And I don't know. I don't love the way the character that we kill off in this, that most of you probably already know who that is, goes out. And this was not fun for me. Just this whole thing was no fun. And makes me not want to read IVX. And I mean, I'm not an Inhumans guy in the first place, so they already have some work to do to make me excited about that. But some of it was a taste issue. Some of it I don't think it's particularly well written.
Who wrote that? I know Soul's writing IVX. Who wrote?
See, I didn't want to call anybody out. It's Lemire and Soul.
Oh.
And I love it, but I don't. And I mean, I think Jeff Lemire is. I don't even know if I want to say Lemire is a better writer than Soul. When Soul's on, he's really on. His last arc on Daredevil is just spectacular. But I haven't read anything from Lemire I don't like,
except for Moon Knight.
Except for this, Moon Knight. It's not, and Lowe has the same thing I do. I think still, Moon Knight. It's not that it's bad. It's that they are not dropping enough breadcrumbs. I I cannot keep my.
It feels like deja vu of watching like the first few seasons of Lost, where like I was really into what was happening because I wanted to know all the answers, but it's gotten to the point now in Moon Knight where I'm like, you're just giving me more questions and no answers at all.
Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, none at all. I got
None.
You know, we started playing more of those Marvel pinball machines this week. There's a Moon Knight pinball machine. I had more answers than the Moon Knight pinball machine. Let's go ahead now and move on to our most anticipated books for this coming week. And Lo, what 3 books are you most enthusiastic about?
So I was going through Comixology, and granted, I definitely could have missed something, but I don't think there's anything on my pull list that's coming out next week. Like, I could be wrong, but I didn't see anything. So all 3 of these are like not something that I regularly read. So my number three is a number 1 for Now Ghost Rider. I imagine that this has mostly to do with the fact that Ghost Rider is now on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, you know, and that plot has been pretty well received by fans and surprising still to me, Manos. So I figure if you're enjoying that, it's a good place to kind of come in and familiarize yourself with the character, which is something that I will probably do because I've never read anything. My number 2 is the Star Wars Annual number 2. It's going to be focusing around Princess Leia.
Another annual. And DC's doing a bunch of annuals next week. I didn't even know about that one. There's going to be too many books that I'm going to have to buy that are not sitting on my pull list because of the way Comixology works. Sorry, God.
Yeah. So, and it has to do with Princess Leia, and I really liked her book last year. So I'm excited to see what else she's up to. And my number 1, which is a book that I do read consistently. I just only read it in trade, so I'm not totally caught up on it, and I don't talk about it on this show on purpose. It's Saga number 40. I usually don't bring it up because it is definitely a mature book, and I know that we try to keep things very.
About it, though. I didn't know. I know. No, you
That's brilliant.
Whoa! You do a Crisis show on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but I still like censor myself and stuff, and it's also different for a show like this.
You can still put it on your list and say this rocked, but I'm not going to talk about sexual content.
But I only read it in trade.
Oh, I'm sure it's not just that, but that's all I've experienced.
No, there's a plant lady who goes out dying, and it's the greatest thing ever, and I can't even begin to explain it on Geekvolution.
Lo, I'm sorry, I did not mean to.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Feel free to bring that up.
It is
so
ridiculous. But I don't read it in single issue. So, like, I only read it in trade, so I wouldn't be bringing it up weekly anyway. But Saga number 40 is coming out. If you aren't reading Saga, I just figured I would take this opportunity. I mean, I don't know who isn't reading Saga because that was like one of the first books I started reading because of
how
widespread it is.
Get to it.
I've got the trades. I've got the first 2 trades.
Okay, that'll be the next thing that I do over a weekend that'll like I won't be able to keep it all in straight in my head.
But the thing is, I stopped buying them because Matt started buying them, so I was just
Look at these beautiful trades.
Sorry!
They're beautiful.
I'm sorry, I'm not buying them so that the place you moved that wouldn't immediately be Saga already. I'm sorry!
I might start buying the beautiful hardcovers.
But yeah, those are my top 3 for next week. Nothing that I'm currently reading, with the exception of Saga, sort of, but I also don't know what's happening in the current arc. So it's mostly just a general, like, Saga's great type of recommendation. And you can quote me on that.
I concur. You can quote me with her words.
Eric, I think there should be like a line of hardcovers that are called beautiful hardcover. Like I think you do that. You know, like pristine. Like that's officially
a beautiful hardcover.
Yeah, it's a beautiful hardcover. And if you don't agree, you don't have to buy it. Eric, what are your 3?
Okay,
Here's
so
no,
I remember.
Oh, you remember yours? Okay, all right. Excuse me.
So my number 3 is Now Ghost Rider. I didn't read the Robbie Reyes. I'm a big fan of Ghost Rider. I really like Ghost Rider. I didn't read the Robbie Reyes book for the reason I don't read a couple of books. That book started. People liked it. Secret Wars happened. There was no more Ghost Rider. So I never got around to reading it. But I'm still interested in the character. So I'm gonna try that next week. Wolf Cop number 2.
Wolf Cop? What
Okay.
the heck is Wolf Cop?
Okay, so Wolf Cop is a B movie that came out a couple years ago, which you should all do yourself a favor and watch. It is...
Even me?
Maybe not you.
Are you going to make me watch it?
Oh, that'd be fun. Maybe next Halloween. Or if I'm bored. Wolf Cop is the perfect B movie. It is the things that I hate about things like Sharknado, where they're like, oh, it's like they're making bad movies on purpose, but they're not. I don't know. I really don't like the Asylum movies. Wolf Cop is exactly the we love B movies, and we're going to make one of those. It's a movie about a werewolf cop who fights aliens. And you don't even know that there's aliens until later in the movie. It's great. It's wonderful. I didn't know there was a comic. I'm so excited for the comic. I'm going to have to go back and read the first issue. So Wolf Cop issue 2, I'm excited. And then
Boy, you really dug to find that one. Wow.
No,
I'm
I
so
actually,
glad
Who is publishing that?
I don't even
actually
know.
saw it as well. It's Dynamite, I think. I want to say.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that makes
All right.
I saw that as
Okay.
well, and that almost made my list. Just because I was so interested.
Have you
in
also
the
seen the
concept.
film?
I've never seen the film. I literally was just
Oh, you should
looking
watch
at it.
the film. It's on Netflix.
as, like-
It's so good.
It's on Netflix. Okay, I'll definitely look into that. But just on like the concept alone, I was like, I haven't read the number 1, but this looks fantastic. I almost put it on my top 3. So
I was
I
expecting
agree
to say
with
it
you.
was
It looks fantastic.
underground like basement comic company
Nope.
called like What the Something
Nope, nope.
Comics.
No. I didn't like really dig to find out. I was just like, Wolf Cop number 2, buying that, reading that. So my number 1 is 7 to Eternity number 3, which is a recently started epic fantasy series by Rick Remender. I'm going to read 1 and 2 in preparation. I've not read them. I was going to buy it in trade. So hopefully I like 1 and 2, and by the time I get to 3, I will also enjoy that. I love everything Rick Remender does. This will be my first real opportunity to read a Rick Remender book month to month, so I'm excited for that.
Well, have you read much of his creator-owned stuff outside of
Fear
Black
Agent,
Science?
Fear Agent, Black Science. I've got another one that. Deadly Class is great.
Oh, I keep forgetting that's him. Yeah.
He's got that thing where like I buy volume 1s of Image books because they're like $6,
Right.
and then volume 2s are like 12, and I'm like, but I got 30 books last time. So I will keep reading Black Science, and I will keep reading Deadly Class, and he's got another one that I want to read. Low. I want to read Low. I want to read everything Rick Remender's writing because it's all
You
great.
do.
No comment.
Yeah, Low. I'm not even gonna get in between that. Eric wants to read Low. Okay,
Obviously, I would
along.
make an amazing comic book. Why are you guys going to a weird place?
my
Goodness.
three
I
are.
didn't say anything.
Yeah, I think no comment implied it. Okay, my 3 Low. I did not know you were a comic book. You look like a person to me. I don't know how that happened.
Well, she went to the Mass Mutants headquarters, and he made her a.
That's what happened. Okay, she's in a Goosebumps episode. So my top
I
3
was gonna say I pulled a Gwenpool and I like went inside the comic
You
book
went
world.
inside the right, and now you can kill people and be totally fine with it. Oh, willy nilly, you got
Exactly.
Doctor Strange to fix your whole weird backstory problem.
Mhm.
So the 3 I picked are things nobody will be surprised about. Power Rangers number 9, because Power Rangers makes my list almost every time. I'm enjoying that book so much. Ghostbusters International number 11 is the last issue of that. So weird it's ending with an 11. And Batman Annual number 1, because it is King writing the annual, and it's a Christmas issue, and it's I'm excited to see King do a one and done Batman story.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
That's kind of a big thing with that. Okay, let's go ahead now and move on to our open forum here in a second. For the next 10 or 15 minutes, we will answer your questions, folks, anything about superheroes and comic books that you'd like to ask us. And before we do that, and any books that maybe we mentioned or you might or you think we might have read that you'd like us to elaborate on, and if there's a little bit of downtime, I might mention another number 1 or 2. But let's go ahead and mention the trivia question. The winner this time is Nathan Snyder. Good job to you. He says Toxin, Scream, and Spider-Side. There's one called Scream?
Yes.
Okay, I don't
Do you
know
know why I
about
know
one.
that?
Why do you know
Because
that?
Scream is for some reason one of the Sinister Six members on the ride, the Spider-Man ride at Universal.
Okay, that's really weird.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not
All
sure
right.
who was consulting when they picked their villains. It's Electro, Hydro Man, Dr. Octopus, 2 other people, and Scream.
That's really.
Oh, you know what? I think it's only 5 because it's the Sinister Syndicate.
Oh, okay.
Like the cartoon show, I think.
Yeah, when we do that, it's either 5 or 7.
Yeah.
With I'm just kidding. I have no idea. We can fudge that number any time we want.
Oh, Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin's the other one.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he throws a pumpkin bomb, and real fire explodes out of the side of the wall.
I would have expected you to say Demogoblin with that
with
weird
Scream,
with Scream being in there, whatever that is. Is that a separation anxiety character, or
I think so?
Maybe that's where
they all come from.
That's where, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like all those characters that come from Knuckles Chaotix, but nobody played Knuckles Chaotix.
Or I was gonna say, you know when the symbiote is like where do we come from, Daddy? He's like, well, in the 90s there was a thing called separation anxiety, and we all came from.
Tied into this video game because Maximum Carnage was so popular, but nobody liked separation anxiety, the comic or the video game. Anyway, let's go ahead and start answering some questions, folks. And Lo, if you could help me out, that'd be great.
What stories in whatever medium have you completely reevaluated after being exposed to it initially? That's from Azim.
Oh, Azim and the insightful questions, man. That guy.
Right?
I know there's things I've done this with.
Yeah,
Me too. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
And unless he changed his name on YouTube, Azim seems to be a new live viewer, and he's always giving us cool questions like this. And good job. I like that guy. He's great. Anyway, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I'm trying to think. I know I've done this with things. I'm trying to think of something.
I know.
I can tell you, I had real bad first impressions of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then I watched it, and I really liked it.
That is an awesome show. I love that show. But I also liked it from, like, day one.
Oh, and talk about Young Justice. I hated Young Justice when I first watched it.
I had this to a degree. If I'll go to the cartoon superhero place. I had this with Superhero Squad.
Oh, I thought you were going to go somewhere else.
Somewhere
else where there's a video on my channel about.
I had it with the Batman. I did. I like that show now. To some degree. I mean, I haven't watched enough of it yet, but yes, I have been reevaluating that pretty hard. I also have had this a lot with movies that were too, like, and violent for me when I was in junior high or high school.
Pre-Spawn-Year.
Spawn-Year ruined me. I can handle about anything at this point. But I had this with The Punisher. I had this with Blade. Blade I tried to watch 3 times and could not get past that opening scene. And then I was like, and then I did the rewind. I was, oh, this movie's great.
Yeah.
Had with The Crow a little bit too. Lo, what have you had this with?
I'm looking for anything. I think in general, I tend to be way too easily pleased with everything. Like, I don't know. I'm the type of person that just likes stuff. And if I hate it, I'll pretty much write it off and never try it again. Just from looking around, I know that Game of Thrones, the first time that I watched the first episode, I didn't like it, and then I came back to it like 2 seasons later after everybody was like, it's amazing, you need to watch it.
I was there before the series even aired. I read the book.
So I
People pay
that's
$20 to
really
do an entire hour-long video in that voice.
In my low voice?
Is that
my smug low voice?
That is really rude and condescending. I mean,
Yeah.
first, you know, first you're like, Lowe's a comic book, and now
I didn't say that.
really, I said that.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah,
but we should have noticed. You know, we should have taken some personal interest in our friend, the Curious Lo, and noticed that
that's
was
why
a comic
she's curious. Also another thing that I completely reevaluated from just being a stupid teenager. I did not like Dark Knight Returns.
That surprises me.
I read it. I was like 13. I was like, this is just him doing Sin City, but he hadn't thought of Sin City yet. That was my reaction.
Oh, I must have I must have de-evolved. I feel that way now. No, I'm kidding. I don't. I love this question, the Snide question. Nathan Snyder. Why is Scott Snyder writing Batman?
Because you all liked the Court of the Owls.
I don't know if he meant
far too much.
I don't know if he meant for us to read that as a question during the open forum or not, but I feel that way. myself right now.
It feels like he has nothing left to say.
Yeah.
It feels like he doesn't want to be on the book. Well, I don't know if he doesn't want to be on the book, but it feels like he's run out of ideas.
Yeah, it's just he was the big, and I was afraid that they elected him like guru of all things Batman too quickly.
I agree.
Like front man, showrunner of all things Batman too quickly. And we know that he had stories he just wanted to tell and didn't want them to turn into events. I mean, I do not blame Snyder for most of that.
No.
I just think he needs to take a break. I mean, I just think he needs to take some time off. I'm not mad at him for All-Star. I'm mad at DC for putting him in a place where it was hard for him to cultivate his talents with that character in the way he would have liked to have.
Yeah, well, and it feels like he's done the reverse of what most writers do, where, like, when you read the early stuff, they have all these bad habits that they improve on and, like, are able to hide better and get better at.
Yeah.
Black Mirror has, like, none of his bad habits, and it's continued to escalate. All-Star is everything wrong with Snyder's writing on the technical level.
Well, and any of whatever I've just checked into, because I haven't read a lot of his other stuff, what is it? Is it, I always mess this up. Is it, American Vampire? But, like, I didn't notice any of those habits there.
There's a little bit of it in The Wake. I read The Wake. The first half, that's really good. The second half of that is...
Oh, I read the first issue or two of The Wake.
Oh, the first half is great. The second half...
I like the art in that book a lot, too.
We should do a review of that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, let's see if we can answer some more questions here. Mind the Gap, who could write a Metal Gear Solid comic book? Have you ever thought about that, Eric?
Grant Morrison? Jonathan Hickman? Anybody that does, like, really intricate plots and with a bunch of characters.
Rodimus Prime 77, have you guys read the new Luke Cage series by Getty Tartakovsky? Yeah, I read the first issue.
I also read the first issue.
And I haven't continued with it. I didn't love it.
I liked it.
I liked it more than you did, but I didn't end up liking it well enough to read the next issue.
Scene, gag, Luke Cage goes somewhere else. Scene, gag, Luke Cage. There was no through plot for me, and I didn't love it.
I think it would work better as a cartoon.
Or as a trade. Like, maybe I might try it when the whole thing's done.
Yeah.
I liked the art. It looked like a Getty Tartakovsky cartoon, which is interesting because he didn't draw it.
But he did write it like it because I didn't realize it, because doesn't he actually write that?
Yeah, he writes it.
He writes it like it's one of his cartoon shows.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe if you read all of it, it'll feel like one episode.
And maybe you have to adjust
up and,
maybe you have to adjust to it. Yeah.
And I
may try to go back to it. I wasn't in love with it.
Yeah, me either.
Maybe if I knew the. But I say those characters, there were a lot of characters in that I know. I mean, it went back to, it was just 70s Marvel.
Yeah.
Some of the throwback stuff was really cool.
Yeah, I like some of that.
And the way they played with, like footnotes and some of the devices that you had a lot in the 70s that we don't do as much now. That was what I really liked about it.
Me too. And I liked that it was really, like, it was set in that time. Misty Knight is still Jean Grey's roommate, or was Jean Grey's roommate, and that whole thing. I like all that. You can tell he was a comic fan growing up.
What do you think about this? Jacob Carlson says, Endgame is probably the worst story Snyder ever wrote. I kind of like Gordon as Batman.
Endgame's my favorite.
Yeah.
and I think Super Heavy is, hands down, his worst arc.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I have not gone back and read all together. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I really like Endgame, and I really didn't like Super Heavy by the end.
Yeah, Endgame broke down the more I was talking about it with Steve. But I was really hung up on dissecting the character too much on the page, which I've talked about ad nauseum, and he does that with a lot of stories. Zero Hour does that to a degree. Too many things. Zero Year does that to a degree, but he just goes full tilt insane with it.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I liked it in Endgame, okay. and I liked theoretically that was going to be like his last Batman story or his last Batman Joker story, like that kind of thing. I liked that he swung for the fences and was like, I'm going to give it an ending. This will never have an ending. If there was an ending, here's mine. I like that.
Aesthetics in Exile. Can you discuss how you feel about comic paneling and how it serves story? We should do a GNN on that.
Yes, yeah, we talked about it a little bit in
the multi-topic.
Go find that multi-topic. No. Yeah. We should talk about paneling.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and break it down now. We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
But it is
panel's good.
It is a thing that obviously is unique to comics and is fascinating to talk about, and a thing that I didn't bring up a lot early on because I'm not a visual guy, and the more I've studied comics and talked about comics, I find myself going to panel layout a lot, and sometimes it's hard not to just go, that was really neat looking, you know. You look at Batwoman, and like I would have a hard time breaking down, exactly like what that book is doing with the jagged paneling and stuff, except to maybe parallel some things in her psychology or something.
Well, but that's just how J.H. Williams always draws.
But it just pops. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
J.H. Williams has a really cool panel.
It's hard not to get real surface sometimes when I'm talking about panel stuff until I notice something where the story could not be told in any other way.
Well, and there's things where, like, when you go look at I don't think you've read that stuff, but if you read everything around it, we are still blocks.
Yeah.
And he's doing panels that run to other panels, and he's like, the history of how panels evolve and how we do all of that is really, really interesting when you kind of look at it.
Yeah, well, and like I can't think about like early creative panel layouts like that without thinking about Steranko.
Oh yeah.
Folks, I think that's going to be it for us tonight. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Sunday night at 8 Central Time, as always. We're going to have Geeks Not Nerds Live. We'll cover another topic for you, and I think we have already... Yeah, no, I don't know what happened there. And I think...
I wasn't going to say anything. This city just showed you. It's ready to believe.
Good. I think we might already have a really cool topic that somebody brought to my attention just today. So we'll talk about we'll talk about something fascinating for you on Sunday with another one of these all new comic book late night at 10 p.m. Central Time. So make sure to grab your tea or coffee and join us Monday evening. In the meantime, I was Captain Logan. This is Eric.
This was.
And the Curious Low.
Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.
Once again, I was Captain Logan saying good night. Good night.